Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the first of our webinars on the Bank of Ireland Begin Together Arts Fund in partnership with Business to Arts. We realise how difficult a time it is for artists and arts organisations, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. We're currently recording this webinar and we'll be posting it on our YouTube channel after it's complete. We'll circulate the link to all of the attendees and feel free to share it with other friends and colleagues who are unable to attend today. First, some housekeeping notes for you. So as you can see, we're using the webinar format of Zoom. So attendees, none of you are visible at the moment, only presenters, just ourselves. So our presenters today are Andrew Hetherington, Chief Executive of Business to Arts, myself, Michelle Reid, so Arts Programme Manager of Business to Arts, and Hannah Lamont, Grants Manager for the Bank of Ireland Begin Together Arts Fund. So another housekeeping note, attendees have the option to use the chat and question and answer options to submit questions throughout the webinar. We're going to attempt to answer as many as possible, so we have set aside some time for Q&A. Our agenda today, it will cover the following points. So Business to Arts, who we are and what we do. An overview of the Bank of Ireland Begin Together Fund, Arts Fund, and the eligibility requirements and criteria. And then we'll go to Q&A, and then also the more technical side of it, which is how to apply. So many frequently asked questions, just important to note, and many of them are already answered in our FAQ document, which can be found on our website. So be sure to check that out as well, because a lot of the questions are actually asked there. So some people might have just joined, so just to let everyone know, we're recording this. If you miss any of it, if you have to jump off early, you will be able to catch it on our YouTube channel, and welcome to anyone who's joined just a little bit late. So Business to Arts, who are we? Well, Business to Arts, we are a membership-based charitable organisation that brokers, enables and supports creative partnerships between businesses, individuals and the arts. We work with our corporate members on art sponsorship, commissioning, corporate social responsibility programs, internal and external communications and event programming. And we also work with artists and arts organisations, providing a range of training opportunities and coaching to help diversify income streams, grow audiences and enhance strategic planning. We are known for our in-house programs, which include the Business to Arts Awards, which is our annual showcase of leading corporate and cultural partnerships in Ireland, Funded.ie, which is our crowdfunding website, our annual CEO Forum, which is in association with PwC, and then Newstream, which is our arts fundraising capacity building program. So you can find out more about Business to Arts on our website if you're interested in finding that out. So as with all grant applications, when applying to this fund, it's important to remember a few key points. So I'm just going to run through these just to remind everyone, and it's good to just take note of it before you really commence your application. So answer the questions asked. It's basic, but it's really important to read the questions carefully. Use clear, concise language. Forget about the money, at least initially. Focus on what your project is, and then think about your budgeting and what you're applying for. And remember, people give to people. It's important to remember that. Build your credibility, and also use figures and statistics where relevant. That might be to do with the number of participants that you're including, or any other facts and figures that you've collected about your project. Review the application criteria before submitting. So is there something that you overlooked that may actually make you ineligible, or is there something that you need to check with your partners? So just be careful to read through the criteria. Get a second person to review and ask them to ensure that there's no jargon. Fluffy language is important to leave that to the side for an application. Abbreviations that are clear to the reader. So you might use abbreviations all the time. Just be sure that you've clarified what they are from the outset. The application should be spell checked and grammar checked, and then also that all calculations are accurate for your budget. We recommend not submitting your application last minute. Try to at least have it submitted at least 24 hours before the closing date. If you have any questions or anything about the closing date, just get in touch with us, and all the information is on our website. Again, just for anyone who has joined us, we're recording this. It's a webinar style, so just the panelists are shown, but there will be time for Q&A. But welcome to anyone who's joined late. I'm now going to hand over to Andrew, who's going to run through more of the details of the fund.
Thanks, Michelle, and hello, everyone. So if you've had a chance to read some of the details already, you will know that this fund is a total of €1 million, or in British pounds, it's €840,000, and we will fund projects across the island of Ireland in both the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. And in Northern Ireland, we're working with our friends and colleagues in Arts and Business Northern Ireland who are supporting us in that place. Now, open to all art forms. So when you select your application, you'll see a range of art forms that are in line with public funders, and you select the one that is most relevant for your application. And we are trying to support artists and groups of artists that are aiming to work with a partner organization. And we are specifically looking for types of projects or artworks that have been adapted because of COVID-19. So when I talk about adapting, I'm referring to things like you might need technology or technology solutions to try and change or to record some of your artwork or art project and to deliver it online. So that might involve hiring or commissioning professional filmmakers, or the equipment needs for filming, or broadcast needs. You may also need to adapt a venue. So that could mean that because of social distancing requirements, you need to change some of the infrastructure, or you need to lay out an exhibition or a performance or something that needs to respond to social distancing requirements. And then you may also have to think about ways that you are adapting existing learning and public engagement programs. So that might mean that what you had traditionally done as a public or learning program is no longer relevant or needs to be changed significantly because of COVID-19. And then another adapted type of project might be that you are looking to realize something that was initially due to be indoors, but might be moving outdoors, or it's changing its location because of COVID-19. The second criteria, which relates to artworks or art projects that are inspired or respond to COVID-19. And that may mean things like artworks that have now been developed specifically for digital audiences. It might mean art projects or artworks that are going to be in the public realm or outdoors. It might mean types of projects that involve hybrid forms of delivery. So you need to do both online and in venue or on-site activities. And then it may also involve projects that respond to or are informed or inspired by the themes of COVID-19, like lockdown, like the people affected by COVID-19, or opening up society. Now, just to recap on those two criteria, we realize that we can't fund everything and all of the needs that artists and arts organizations are experiencing at the moment. And we also realize that €1 million is a defined amount of funds. So we've had to work on these criteria through a consultation process, and the documentation that informed that criteria is available on the research and publications section of our website, and it is called Rebooting the Economy. And we hope that the criteria that we've created are applicable to as many projects that may experience a need to either adapt or are inspired by COVID-19 at the moment. Now, just in terms of what the fund will support, so existing art projects and artworks and applications is probably the most important thing that I focus on here. So the applications, there's 5 bullet points there. So they are being delivered or involve professional artists, that they involve a partner organization. So the artists or group of artists are working with a partner organization like a venue or event, an arts organization or a community organization, or another funding agency. You may have secured some funding from other sources that you are looking to supplement. We're also keen to see that appropriate fees are allocated towards the artists and arts organisations, clearly demonstrated in your application process. And we also are aiming to see projects or artworks that will involve an audience or participants, and that you are thinking about the audience and the participants in the project as it is realised. And then in terms of timing, the applications will close in early November, but the projects that we will fund should take place between February and December of 2021. So there are a few months between the closing date, the notification of decisions, and then when projects might commence. And we're also drawing attention to the fact that we will have a second round for applications in April of 2021. So that will be within 6 months. So if you feel like your project is underdeveloped, you may want to wait to the second round, and we will have a third round in April of 2022. Now, I'm going to move over to some of the questions that are already coming in. There are 2 in the chat at the moment to see if we can deal with them. So what is the definition of an organization? I hope I've tried to cover that. So an organization is a partner in the project or the artwork. So essentially a type of arts organization or community organization or a funding agency. And the funding agency may have given funding specifically for the realization of that artwork or art project. And by applying to this fund, the Bank of Ireland Begin Together Arts Fund, that you can either supplement or you can add to the revenue for your project or artworks, or that you realize that you need additional budget based on the changing circumstances of COVID-19. So when we talk about partner organizations, we are looking for a type of an alliance between the 2 entities. So that is the artists or group of artists and the organization, so that we are trying to maximize the programming activities of arts organizations, as well as the aims and ambitions of artists that may apply. So a question there is, would a primary school fall under a community organization? Yes, that's right, it would. It is an organization that schools regularly support art projects and programs, and we believe that that is an eligible type of organization. So there are also questions about online community. So online community is, it depends on your own broadcast channels where you want to deliver your output to. But yes, an online community exists. However, we still believe that a partner organization should be involved in the application in some way. So could your online community benefit a partner organization? And can you work with the partner organization in some way to try and maximize the reach, to generate new audiences, or to think about ways that you can collaborate to add to programming of a partner? Now, do you have to fulfill both criteria, adapted to COVID-19 or inspired by respond to COVID-19, or is it just okay to be one of these? So in the application selection, you will be asked to select one or other, and there is no requirement to have both, but you should select the one that you think is most relevant for your application. The next question is, if one of the main creators is based in France, but the others are all in Ireland, is that okay? Yes, that is okay. Some of the main criteria around projects is that we need the bank account for the project to be in or on the island of Ireland. So that's Northern Ireland or Republic of Ireland, so that we can pay the funds to you effectively, that there are no cross-border charges or other elements that we need to consider, and that the project team as a majority are based here, and the major project management related to it is on the island of Ireland. Can a partner be an NGO? Now, I realize that we are getting a number of questions in, and Michelle is going to help us combine any ones that we miss, but I'll try and cover questions as I see them. Can a partner be a non-governmental organization? Yes, it can. It is another common partner for artists or groups of artists to work with. And does the application cover research or a feasibility study? This one is probably on the ineligible side. So we are specifically looking for artworks or art projects, but if your art project is in a development stage and you are planning to bring it to the next phase, which involves a partner organization and involves it being realized in some way, then I would say yes. But if it's technically to do with research of the art sector or an art form, it's probably ineligible. But if you have a specific question in relation to that, feel free to drop an email to us so we can talk through what your project is and understand it a little bit more. Another question from Fergal Nash: would partnering with a live venue to host a streamed live show, gig, concert be permissible? Correct. So if this is a band, for example, a group of musicians that are planning on bringing a new album or a new series of concerts to a venue or a place, you have the artists or the group of artists, you have a venue whose program is being enhanced. So the short answer there is yes. Okay, Sarah Buckley, if a musician wants to work with a videographer to put some live performances online due to gigs being cancelled, is this ineligible because there is no organization involved? Sarah, I wouldn't say it's ineligible, but I think your application could be significantly enhanced if you were to try and identify an organization that you could partner with so that you can enhance their program and you can reach new audiences. So by the fact that you may be working by yourself as an artist, but you may be commissioning a film studio or a group of filmmakers to help bring your performances to a live, high quality broadcast version, if that's working in partnership with another entity. But we'd really encourage you to try and work to collaborate with a local organization that can help bring your project to a bigger audience, or to try and help you reach new heights with the project that you have.
Andrew, just to interrupt there, we're getting a couple of questions through the Q&A panel as well, and a lot of them are around what kind of art forms we are funding, or what kinds of organizations constitute as a partner organization. And just to say on that, that there's a lot of definitions in our eligibility criteria documents and our FAQ on our website. So we're open to funding all art forms with this fund, and also community organizations would be considered partner organizations. It just might matter what your project is. So do take a look at all the documents as well, and there might be answers there for you already.
Thanks, Hannah. So you will see on the links on our website, you'll be able to see all of the questions that are on the online site. And if you download that PDF, you'll be able to see all the art forms as a list. And they also include a section which is other. So if you don't feel like you fit into any of those categories, please select other and make a clear statement about what art project you are planning and whether it is something that is not within the criteria. So there was a question from Grace Morgan. Can you apply for a work in progress that would have a public showing at the end, or does it have to be a full production? It does not have to be a full production, but the fact that you are planning an audience and you are hopefully working with an arts organization in realizing that in development work, then yes, it is. Cleona Doherty, I have an ongoing relationship with an Irish fashion designer with seasonal commissions for her shopfront and website. Does this classify as an involved partner? Yeah, it is a partner, so yes is the short answer in that, and you should look at all of the other criteria, think about how you fit within the criteria, and to try and make sure that you are presenting the best possible art project with that partner as well. Okay, Mary Barncutt, does an arts promoter, for example, have to work with a partner, specific artists or a group to apply for the award, or can their track record or proposal work with multiple artists? So a partner is also a promoter, and if you have a group of artists or as individual artists that you are working with and you are trying to bring that event or gigs or series of events to life, yes, you are a partner. However, we still would love you to try and bring this to the widest audience. So is there a partner organization, so a venue or a space that might have a program enhanced by the fact that you are bringing this to an online audience? So please do think about whether you can enhance your application by doing that. Now, I'm going to pause there for a second. Michelle, you may have noticed some trends in the questions. I noticed that we have a number there, and are any of them batched together that you could give to me?
There are quite a few questions in terms of partnering with, so can we, so as an arts venue, can you apply with an artist we're working on as part of a program? So there are a few questions around that, around part of a program and as an arts venue or another type of venue. And then there's another question, just music promoter question, just around as an arts or music promoter, are they considered a partner, and how would that work in terms of applying with a group of artists?
So thanks, Michelle. So the application process involves stating who the artist or groups of artists are and who the partner organization is. And that means that we are looking for the details of the total partnership. And when you submit an application, we ask that you agree the fact that everyone involved in your application is aware of it and understands that it is going forward and that there is a plan to work in partnership in some way. So I hope that answers that first question that Michelle has brought together. The second question relates to promoters, and I think we answered that in the previous section, which is if you are a promoter, you are technically a partner, but we would love to see how either art event or the gigs could add to another organization's programming activity, and to see if that's possible with your application. You are not ineligible by the fact that it is a promoter and an artist working together, but if you were encouraged to try and find a partner organization to enhance their programming, we believe that you may have a stronger application.
Okay, and there's a question here, which is actually a good question. If the artists are based in Northern Ireland and the partner is in the Republic, or vice versa, is that okay?
Absolutely, yes. So this is an Island of Ireland fund, and we're keen to see projects that are both within Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland, and any potential collaborations across the border as well.
And there's some other questions just around productions or exhibitions that are being put on. Is there any stipulation that the output must be free of charge, or can there be a charge for it? For example, entry fees or workshop fees, or fees for audience members to go to a performance?
There is no stipulation in relation to this. We are keen to try and support projects of all different types. So that may mean that it's both free entry for audiences and also involve a paid ticketed or subscription, so that you can add to the budget that you have for your project.
Okay, and then there's a question here around eligibility. If you're unsuccessful in your first application in the first round, are you eligible to apply in the next? And the answer to that is yes. If you're not successful in this round, you can of course apply. And also, if you apply for this round and you're successful, you can also apply for the next round as well.
So just to recap on the grant rounds and application processes, we realize that it may take projects some time to maybe build the partnership side of what they're planning on doing, which is why we put 2 application processes within 6 months. So one now up until November closing date, and then a second one in April of 2021. And it may be a case that you have more clarity on your program, on your partner's programming activity. So if you are working with an arts organization, that you have the ability to see what their program is going to be a little more clearly in April of next year. So you may decide that the second round is more applicable for your project or for the activities that you plan on applying for. Now, I know we also did receive a question offline, which is about the establishment of a new arts business. And I would like to clarify that this fund is specifically aimed at arts projects or artworks. And within our criteria, we have removed any significant capital projects which might involve the creation of a new business. So if your project is the creation of a business, we would suggest making contact with us. We'll give you other supports that we believe might be more relevant for your activity. But the main focus that we're looking at is an art project or a new artwork with this fund. So we have a question about the selection process and the panel of judges. So to talk through the specifics, they are available in our eligibility criteria. But the panel will consist of an artist, a multidisciplinary arts programmer, a member of either Business to Arts or Arts and Business in Northern Ireland, and then 2 representatives of Bank of Ireland that have self-selected because they have an understanding and a passion for the arts as well. So there will be 5 members of the panel, and that may, if depending on the levels of applications that we have, we may have a panel specifically just for Northern Ireland and a panel for the Republic of Ireland. But if we have a smaller volume of applications, we may just stick with the 5 panelists, but we would like to represent the voice of the individual artist on that panel. We want to have a multidisciplinary arts programmer who can bring the credentials of understanding how to bring projects to life. A member of B2A in Arts and Business. Our experience in working with both corporate funders and with the art sector is important to see how we can make sure that everything is being thought about by the funding that we are distributing. And then the 2 representatives of Bank of Ireland. But again, all details about that process are in our eligibility criteria.
So there's a few questions here which are around the funding itself, around is match funding required, would be the first question, or can it be 100% of the proposed investment? And then the second part of that, a few people have asked, can the 40% funding to artists, can that be split between a number of artists, or is that just for one artist in particular?
So I'll deal with the second question first. The indicative level of about 40% can be split amongst artists. Really what we want to absolutely make sure is that you are thinking about appropriate pay levels for artists in the projects that are put forward for us. A number of representative bodies have guidelines for the payment of artists, and if you are unsure about those, please look to your art form specific representative body for guidelines. But in general, we would like to see about 40% of fees distributed to the artist or artists involved in the project. And Michelle, could you recap on the first question that was to do with?
So that's in terms of the funding from this arts fund. Can that funding be 100% of the project, or is match funding required?
Okay, so just to be clear, the funding that people can request is between 3,000 and 10,000 euro, or the sterling equivalent. We expect the average grant to be made to be approximately 5,000 euro. So if your project can be delivered in its entirety within those budget parameters, then yes, you are free to apply. There is no need to have other sources of funding in place. But we also encourage projects that have more significant budget needs. They may be facing issues in relation to reduction of income because of lack of tickets or increased costs, but an amount of up to, say, 10,000 euro could mean a huge difference in the delivery and actually offset potential gaps in budget. So it's yes to both of those. You can have other sources of funds, and you can use this application process to fund the entirety of your budget.
We've received a question around the intention to fund projects in each county. It says, can I ask about the intention to fund a project in each county? Does this mean only one project will be selected in each county? And if so, will this make the fund very competitive for projects in larger cities?
So we realise that €1 million on the scale of the island of Ireland is also a modest amount of funds. Yes, our ambition is to fund a project in each county, but that may mean that we have more than one in some counties where there might be a higher volume of projects submitted. But we will not know until we see the applications in their entirety. And we also have an ambition to fund as many art forms as we can as well. But it is dependent on the level of applications. And we also think that this will be a competitive application process. Our initial estimation is somewhere between about 500 and 1,000 applications, so that will give you an idea of the volume of applications that we might expect. So it will be competitive, unfortunately, but we hope that we are trying to make this fund work as best as possible for the needs of the art sector at the moment. Okay. Michelle or Hannah, are there any other questions or batches of questions that you feel that we need to answer at this point?
So there are more specific questions around the types of partner organizations. So for example, a business that works in health and art, a local arts office, an event promoter. Yeah, so I think again, some different people asking, I suppose, about their specific particular partner organization.
Yeah, so based on that list, Michelle, that you called out, yes, they are all technically partner organizations. So they are the types of projects that could be submitted. Mm-hmm. There is another question I see there from Kevin Neville. Can you submit more than one idea? So we have stated in the eligibility criteria that an artist should only submit one application unless they are working with a group of artists and there is a separate application for the group of artists, and they may be an element of a larger project with a group. And we've also recommended that partner organizations only submit one application. So the recommendation is that the partner organization supports and identifies the best possible project for this fund that they can submit. Another one, question from Adrian Legg at the bottom: can the artists involved be across different counties? Yes, that is possible. What you will need to do is select the best county for the main project lead or the main originator of the application. And that might make more sense for it to be the partner organization. But for example, if you are part of a touring project, so that is going to a number of different venues in 2021, then you may want to select other in your partner organization and give details of all of the partner organizations that are involved. And then a previous question from Paula McDermott: are you willing to share credit as the funder with other arts funding bodies, as most projects will require more than €5,000? That is correct. We realize that €5,000 will only be part of a budget requirement, and we are keen to support projects that may have other funding sources, as well as any projects that might only need €5,000. So yes, we will share credit. We're keen to support as many projects that are already got funding sources or need funding sources as is possible with the funding that we have.
I've had a question about insurance. Would this funding cover professional indemnity insurance, vehicle insurance, and public liability?
So within our eligibility criteria, we've asked that all projects that are funded ensure that they have public liability insurance as a standard. So yes, we will help to cover those costs if that is what you need to apply for this fund for. Short answer. Okay, Michelle and Hannah, do you feel like there's any other questions that we may have missed in this, or if anyone feels like a question hasn't been answered, please just type it in the chat function at the bottom of your screen.
One artist is asking if they've been approached by two separate partner organizations for different projects, could they apply for both with different organizations on different projects?
Sorry, Hannah, I didn't hear all of that. Could you repeat?
Sorry. An artist has asked, they've been asked to partner with two separate organizations on two separate projects, and they're wondering whether they would be eligible to apply for two separate projects with two separate arts.
The short answer to that is no, and the artist should self-select which project makes the most sense for this fund to apply to.
Okay.
So,
and there's another question here, which is, so is it preferable for the application to come from the partner organization or the individual artist?
It can be from either is the short answer. There's no preference, but both organizations or both partners need to state that they are aware of the application and that they are prepared to work together in 2021.
And another question here is quite specific. So can a partner organization be a professional music ensemble?
If it is a single artist that is applying to work with a professional ensemble, yes, it can. Again, think about the audiences that you are planning your project to involve and to try and create the most comprehensive view of what you're trying to achieve.
Another question here around time frame. So we'll distribute total. We're not so are we supporting projects in 2020? So the application process ends in November, and then all of the applications have to go through a selection process, and the funding would be given out in December and the start of January. So if the project's already happening right now, then it would be outside of the time frame of this particular fund. But if your project may continue into next year, then you potentially could be applying for a second iteration of it, and the fund will also be open for applications again in April. So there might be an opportunity if you are pursuing your project or expanding it again.
Then Fergal Nash has asked a question about budgets. Yes, a budget will need to be provided with the application. Again, if you need to see the layout of how a budget should be proposed, there is a downloadable PDF of all the questions, and it states all the type of expenditure that might be involved in your project that you can use as a template. So some of the more technical questions, like Carol Moore's question about how to save and return on the application process, Hannah is going to cover in, when we finish this Q&A session. So if you don't need support with the technical side of submitting your application, you might want to decide to leave the webinar at the end of the Q&A. Hannah will move on to a quick run through our application system and how to use it, and all of the fields that might be involved. So if you are not concerned about the technical side of it, you may not want to stay for the latter part of this webinar. So just to be clear on some of the questions about the time frame, the projects that we will fund should happen in between February and December of 2021. We are unable to fund projects retrospectively, and what we are trying to give people is enough time to realize their project in a way that fits with the timing. So if we close our applications in November, we are trying to get and notify successful projects by December, and that gives us time to get the agreements in place in January, and then the funds distributed either in December or January, depending on how quickly it is. So we will have some funds released in this year, this calendar year, but the project should only be for the 1st of February of 2021 through to the end of the year. And then Una Desire, hello, how are you? Are we planning to allocate the fund equally across the 3 funding rounds? I think it's safe to assume that we will try our best. It is possible that there may be skews towards the beginning and middle parts, but we don't know. It will depend on the funding that is requested in round 1 and round 2 and round 3.
There's a question here, if people have any other questions post-webinar, who can they contact? So from this webinar, there are a lot of common strands to a lot of the questions. So we will actually be updating our FAQs and updating that on our website. So that's an important source for you to go to, and a lot of your questions will be answered there. And if they're not answered there, you can email us at begintogetherartsfund@business2arts.ie. A bit of a mouthful. Yeah.
And I'm just going to recap on what we will not fund bullet points. It's important that people are clear about those as well. So we will not fund organizations, so partner organizations that are outside the island of Ireland. It is possible that some of the artists involved in a project might be in Ireland or out of Ireland, but we will not fund an organization that is based outside of Ireland, and we will not fund entities that do not have a bank account in Ireland as well. With this fund, we are funding art projects and artworks, so we won't fund general fundraising appeal. So if you're doing an annual campaign for fundraising, it's not for this fund. We will not fund completed projects, so things that have already happened and you are faced with an additional funding need. Unfortunately, we are looking to projects from February 2021 onwards. We can't fund the repayment of debt or rent or a permanent premises, tuition or course fees. But if you do have any of the requirements in these areas, please feel free to drop an email to info@business2arts.ie. We may be able to point you in the direction of other supports and activities that could help you with your needs. But those bullet points are important to think of as you do your application process. So if you cover on any of these bullet points that we are not funding, it is likely that your project may be considered ineligible. So please sense check the eligibility requirements before you put in your application. And then just to re-emphasize, if you have another question post-webinar, we do have another webinar next week on the same day, but at 2 o'clock next week, so on the other side of lunch. And then we do update our FAQs on a weekly basis based on questions that we are receiving, and the next update will be after today's seminar. So keep an eye on them. The FAQs are designed to try and help you, and then if there's any remaining questions that aren't dealt with in those documentation, please feel free to email us at the email address. Okay. So I am going to pause there. Thank you for your questions. We, again, really appreciate you joining us today. And we hope that we've given you some insight into how to apply for this fund and aided you in your application process. Now, they are the eligibility criteria and some of the more kind of focused questions on projects covered. And I'm going to hand over to Hannah now. Hannah is going to share her screen, and she will talk through the registration with our system all the way through to how you submit an application and the use of the system. So again, if you do not think that you need this content and you're technologically capable of going through the process without our support, then you may want to log off, but it will be useful. So I encourage you to stay and listen to Hannah. The system is always something that people will have a question about as they go through it. So thank you very much from me, and over to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Andrew. Actually, I'm just going to stay on this slide for the moment. I'm going to go through it first, and then I'll share my screen to the Awards Force platform that we use for all of our applications. So just to say, that link there, business2arts.awardsplatform.com, that's the link to the application form, the digital application form that you will need to complete. We do have a document on our website of the application questions. That is for your reference only, just to review before you start the actual application. You can review the questions in advance and plan out your application in advance. So just a note, the platform that we use to accept these applications is the same one we use for our Business to Arts Awards or any of our funding or bursaries that we have done over the years. So if you've already registered with us for another bursary or fund in the past, we'll already have your email address registered and associated with us. So if you're returning registration, all you need to do is put in your email address. The system will tell you that you've already registered with us. And then if you've already forgotten your password, or if you don't know how to get in from there, you can just click Forgot Password and it'll prompt you from there. If you have never registered for a fund with us before or registered for a bursary, you would be a new registration. So you need to register your details, and very importantly, the system will send you an email directly to your personal email that you have added in the username, and you just need to click the verification link in that email in order to proceed on to the next step. So once you start your application, you will be asked to save your progress as you go. So just make sure that you always hit save and next. It's a very user-friendly system. It doesn't crash, it doesn't, kick you out, and it will always save your information before you move on to the next page. So it's really user-friendly. You don't have to complete it in one sitting. You can complete it over a period of days, and you can continue to come back to it, log in and come back to your application, and it'll pick up where you left off. Some important things to note. you may need to check your word count if you've filled out a portion of text and it's not letting you move on to the next portion of the application. It may be because of your word count. So we've detailed where there may be a 500 words word count limit. So just make sure that you're maybe open a Word document separately and have your information in the Word document so you can verify how many words you're typing at one time. Also, ensure that you have all required fields completed. Otherwise it won't let you go on. It's very intuitive. It'll say, you know, you forgot to complete this section here, you must go back and complete this section, and it'll highlight any of those questions you still need to answer. And then before you submit your application, just make sure you scroll down to the very end of that page and click Submit Entry. It's easy to sort of say, great, finished, done, close it, and not have actually clicked Submit. So just on the last page, you want to go to the very, very bottom. There is a couple of terms and conditions check boxes that you need to click. Make sure you've selected those and then click Submit Entry. So they're just the important things to note. And of course, we will be locking the application at 5 p.m. or 5:01 on November 4th of this year. So it will not be open after that. We won't be able to accept any late submissions. So do make sure that you're prompt with your application. And as Michelle said earlier, try not to start this application 24 hours before it's due, because it does require a bit of thought, a bit of detail and some time to give to it. So with that all said, I'm going to ask Michelle to make me the host so I can share my screen.
Okay.
Thank you. Great. And so just to show you, this is what the Awards Force platform that we use for our applications looks like. So as I was saying before, you'll be asked to either register or log in. So if you've previously used the system before, you just need to go to log in. And if you've forgotten your password, that's all you need to click here. I don't know if there's weird things popping up on my screen here. Sorry about if there are. And then otherwise, if you need to register, this is where you complete your registration. You fill in all your details and make sure you go to your emails and click the verification link that you receive after this. So I've already logged in, and this is what the first page will look like. So we've basically added the same information that you can find on our website to the homepage of this platform. So if you start the application and you realize I actually need to do a bit more information, bit more of a check back on the criteria or the frequently asked questions, all of those documents are found here. So you can click through there and take a look. You can also register for our next webinar here if you feel that you would like to get some more information. And so then we have, this is what it would look like for you. I've just created my own test of the application process. And so each section has its own different questions. Again, if you wanted to review the questions in advance, those questions could be found on our website or also on the front page of the information. I've gone too far now, so I can't, oh, there it is. So if you wanted to review the questions in advance, you can click here, the application questions that are for reference. So yeah, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Are there any questions at this point about the application software or how to apply? If I open this, do people see my Q&A?
No.
No, great. So there's no questions there.
I'm just going to recap on a previous question. There was one question we were asked to clarify. If the majority of the project takes place after February 2021, does it still qualify? Yes, it would. So that's the short answer. You may have started the project already, but the manifestation of it in its major proportion is after February 2021, but before December 31st, yes, your project does qualify.
Hannah, there's another question there around support documentation and upload for the application.
Yes, so we do have an area to upload supporting documentation. We had it enabled only for images and video files to support your project, but we also made it eligible to accept PDFs. So if you had a script, for example, that would count as a supporting document that you could upload there. We do want to be specific that, you know, we're going to be going through so many applications, and there's, you know, if you have extra things to say about, for example, your past work experience or your past artistic experience, that's not the place for your supporting documentation to be uploaded. We do have your CV. We ask you to upload your CV. That's where that should go. And your supporting documentation should really just be specifically to the project. It shouldn't necessarily be supporting documents about your artistic career necessarily. And some people are saying it's user-friendly. It is. It's very user-friendly. I don't expect many people to have great difficulty accessing this. Someone mentioned using it on a phone. It might not work on a phone. I would recommend that you use a laptop or a desktop computer to access the application process, just for your own ease of mind. I know you can look at it on your phone, so if you wanted to review, you could review it on your phone, but for your application process, I would advise you track down a computer or a laptop for that.
Another question here about music or video files, MP3s or MP4s.
Yeah, both are eligible to be uploaded.
And just if you are having difficulties on your browser, it's usually browser security settings on a PC or a laptop. So you may want to close your browser, restart it, or try a different browser. And we usually recommend Google Chrome or Firefox as the browsers that you use for this platform.
And there's some more questions here just around supporting documents, just in terms of, would one PDF document with all information be preferable or separate ones? And in terms of groups of artists, would a document with all of their CVs or individual CVs, and then or their biographies, or to what level of detail, if it's a group of people, would be needed?
I believe when we request to upload CVs, it's one document. So that is something that you may need to consider if you're uploading. It's here, this is the CV of the artist. So do keep that in mind. If there are multiple artists applying at once, you may need to compile them all together in one document and upload that way. I hope that answers that question. And any other questions? There's one chat that just came in there. I think that covers the questions around how to actually apply. But again, as we've said before, we do have a lot of information on our website through the Business to Arts Arts Fund page that specifically focuses on this art fund. So do review the documents, review the FAQs. I'll be updating them weekly with, and especially after this Q&A that we've just had with some of the questions that have come through. We hope to keep that as informative as possible and up to date as possible. And also review the application questions in advance, have a bit of a think, talk to your collaborators, talk to your partners, work on your projects and have a think about it. And if you still have questions, feel free to email me. It's the Begin Together Arts Fund at business2arts.ie. It's the full email address. That can also be found on our website, which is business2arts.ie.
Thanks, Anna.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen there.
Thank you. So as Hannah said, really from our side, keep an eye on our FAQs and they'll be updated. If you would like to join another webinar, we have another one next Wednesday, the 7th of October at 2 p.m. Or if you think of anyone else that would be interested in the fund that has questions before they start applying, recommend them to come to the webinar. This webinar will be on our YouTube channel. Well, that will be uploaded by the end of today. And if there are any specific questions which you feel aren't answered in our FAQs, as Hannah said, please email them in. And thanks for taking the time to join us today. We hope to see lots of applications, and thank you very much.
Thanks very much, everyone.